make good investments, don't rush into things. So I want to talk to you about, I just want to evaluate a short-term rental property. This actually is a conversation I literally just got off the phone with a client of ours. It actually is one of our agents that work for our brokerage, and she had a client, and they were interested in a property. Actually, they were already in a contract in a property, and they were interested in having us do their short-term rental management. We have a couple of videos on that. We're having a pretty good amount of success in managing our short-term rentals, getting very nice occupancy rates, very good cash and cash return. So they wanted me to go in and basically, one, tell about our services and all that kind of stuff. The secondary that to evaluate a property. I generally don't want to take on a property, a brand new property, unless we were participating in the actual purchase or we were able to evaluate it, mainly because there are so many properties out there that are not a good fit as a short-term rental. They might be good for a mid-term rental. They might be really great for a long-term rental, but they're not necessarily great for a short-term rental. So I want to walk you through this property because it actually posed a few challenges that actually made a lot of sense. I think this is where a lot of people get things wrong when it comes to short-term rentals. So I'm going to walk one through. I want to just talk to you about sort of what I would have done, how I evaluate the competition, and then kind of decide if this is something that makes sense or doesn't make sense. The starting point when evaluating any short-term rental, for me, is the simple question in why are people going to this short-term rental? Why are they visiting that particular area? Our highest performing properties that we have are properties in a lake house, cabin up in the mountains. Our lowest performing properties are always the suburbs, the one that are just kind of just out there, where people may come visit for business or maybe to visit friends or something like that, but they're not necessarily coming to a destination place. Places outside of even in the Atlanta area, think Miami Beach, think of Orlando, Disney, and things like that. Now you're getting increased competition, so there's a whole nother bit of factors that are there, but at least you have the destination. We have a lake here, Lake Lanier, up in Atlanta, Georgia, just north of Atlanta, that draws millions of people. So there's always a new amount of people that are coming in. If people aren't going on vacations, they actually still go to the lake because they're taking a cheap vacation. When people are going to vacations, they still go to the lake because people want to go to the lake. They want to go fishing. And then also we layer in, a couple of different things, another video, but we're able to layer in other services like boat rental and jet ski rental, things like that. So it's very important that destination is something that you consider. And I would say it's like option 1, 2, and 3. And let's be honest, folks, like in real estate, location, right? It's like the 3 criterias. It works the same with the short-term rental. So what is the location? After we do location, then I want to go and I want to evaluate and I say, what is the competition? Okay. So I want to pull the area. As I'm going in, I'm looking at the area. I then want to say, what are the other houses that are out there? One, is there a bunch of short-term rentals that are there? If so, that might be an issue. If there's only a couple, well, is that because they don't perform there? Or is it just there's not a whole lot there, so it's a hidden gem? You kind of have to figure that out. Of the properties that are there, in comparison to the one that you're evaluating, you really want to determine, do you have the nicest property? Is it the top 3? Is it the bottom 3? Are you kind of average? Like, what is it? And then you want to compare that to the pricing. In this particular case, the property is on sale for $445. After consulting with the buyer, the potential buyer, the mortgage was going to put them around $2,500 a month. They were putting 25% down. I'm not really sure what their interest rate is. Didn't want to get into that. They said it was about $2,500 a month. You figure there's going to be at least a $500 operating fee. You pay $100 for internet. You figure $300 for, electricity, and then you have water, and then you're going to probably want to subscribe to a couple services, Netflix, Amazon, things like that for TV. I don't find the need to have actual cable in the property. It's not necessary. A lot of people don't watch cable anyway, so we just do the Netflix and so forth. The point is she's going to be all in for about 3,000, and that's before any of our management fees, and that's before thinking of any kind of capex or thinking about any kind of like fixes she's got to do to the property and so forth. So you're already at a pretty good amount. So at 3,000, let's just be safe, say 3,300. Let's say she's putting down $100,000 in the property, another 30,000, maybe in furnishings. Probably want to go north of that, 40,000. We try to go higher end on our properties and make it just sort of extra nice to attract, people to come stay. She's in for, let's call it 130, 140. You're really looking at about a $25,000 return on investment. Short-term rentals are supposed to be better than a long-term rental. So I'm not looking for a 6, 8, 10% return on a short-term rental. If I'm going to be putting all this investment, all this time into it, I'm really going to need to see upwards into the 20 to 30% range and beyond. And really, I kind of want the 30% and range and beyond as a target, with maybe some downside. If things get a little bit slower, you're still okay. And God forbid, but you're not, you might be in a break even. You don't generally want to start going, well, I could get like 8 to 10%. It's not a really great thing. Even if you're buying, which this person was doing in this case for bonus depreciation, it's still that bonus depreciation is only going to hit for you the year one as far as the benefit. After that, it's just going to go based on the cash flow. So she's 3,000 in, $3,300 in, and she needs to net, about $2,000 a month. So she's bringing about 24,000 net. 24,000 into the 100, you're looking at a 24% cash on cash return. If you're not following that, check out our videos about cash on cash return and how to figure that out. But she needs to be getting, about $5,000 a month or so for this property. I generally say that you're going to rent the house out for about half the time, 15 days, with the better part being 20 days. And then the best being a little bit more than that, but figuring about 15 days out of the month. You figure I'm going to do Friday, Saturday, Sunday on the weekends. That's 12, and maybe get a little bit longer of a booking. So I'm looking for those days. So take, 5,000, divide 15 into it, and you can kind of get an idea of what the per night pricing is going to be at this particular property. And for that reason, you want to start to, take that amount and then compare that to what other houses are renting for. And also, what are those houses looking for on that grid that we just talked about, which is how great does your property look? So there's probably a scale there. And just imagine there's a graph, and it's like, if you're the best property, then you can probably charge a little bit more, right? Probably still want to be a little competitive, somewhere average to slightly higher average. But if you're the best property, you're probably going to get higher bookings. If you get more bookings, more nights booked, then you can probably charge a little less. So there's a balance there. If you're kind of just an average property, but you need a high booking amount for that area to make the numbers work, well, that's not necessarily a good scenario, because if you're average, you're more likely going to have to be pretty lenient on the pricing or lower pricing to entice it. So when the person comes, you get the one person's like, oh, it's a beautiful property. I want to stay there. I'm willing to pay for it. Nobody's necessarily going and saying, oh, this is an average property, I'm willing to pay extra for it, right? They would say, well, this property's not that great, but it is $100 cheaper than the one that's really nice. I'll just go for the cheap one. So you're tailoring to more the budget friendly person versus the high end sort of, I'm willing to pay for it. And so you really got to figure out, again, not only the location, but you need to be figuring out what type of person do you have that's going to be coming into the property. Is it more the budget-friendly property? Is it a family? Is it just the business person that's coming in? There's a number of factors. We won't go into all of them to keep this video short. But let's just jump right into a screen share here, just so that you can take a look at this property. And I just kind of want to walk you through, and just, we'll first we'll look at the subject property, and then we'll go look at our comparisons. But as you can tell here, this is the property. It's 445. There's the address. You guys can go look it up if you want to look at the area. This is in a place called Doraville. And it is, just from the surface looking at it, I'm like, okay, well, it's not, it's an older home. So right there, I was kind of like, that's kind of a red flag. But if I was renting this, again, I take the Martha Stewart approach, to things. Like, if I would rent there, maybe other people would rent there. Martha Stewart always said that she never really invented anything. She just did the things she liked, and everybody happened to be that millions of people liked what she liked. So then she got, wealthy from it. I kind of do the same thing. Like, would I stay here? I'm probably a little more particular, probably a little bit more bougie. So if you're catering to me and I'll stay there, probably the average person would be okay with it. So in this case, this is perfectly fine. What throws out just initially for me is these properties on the left or right. Just looking at pictures, I'm okay with this. It actually is pretty symmetrical, so it has an okay curb appeal. It's not great. I can actually paint this and make it a little bit more modern, a little bit more striking. Don't necessarily need to do that. I'm already thinking this is going to have to be sort of a budget-friendly rental, and this would work perfectly fine. I do want to look at the neighborhood, though. It's very important with a short-term rental that you are evaluating not only the property, but the neighborhood. There's some really beautiful properties that I really want to add to our portfolio, but the neighborhood sucked. And if you have an area that seems unsafe or is a little bit run down, you will get reviews that people say, nice house, but the neighborhood's run down. Make sure you keep your doors locked, that kind of thing. And that will definitely hurt your bookings. So definitely want to avoid that. Going in here, looking just, first glance, I want to look at the overall layout and does it make sense? In this case, it makes sense. You're entering right into this living room. I would arrange the furniture differently, but I can put a nice big TV here, couches that surround that, works perfectly great. Little kitchen nook. That is going to work perfectly fine. Same picture, just looking at the entry, no big deal. The kitchen's functional, it's accessible. I like the look of the kitchen. Again, little eating table looks great. From this picture, I can tell you that the kitchen looks, decent size, has decent finishes. I can tell there's a door out here to the back door without looking at it, showing enough properties. I can tell you that this is probably a laundry room area, which works really great. It's not attached to any kind of the bedrooms. It's off on the side, works perfectly fine. And then I noticed this room that's back here, which is actually pretty intriguing. And this is this little sort of bonus room that heads out into this patio. Really, really love this part of the property, mainly because, and this is actually, you can tell this is almost digitally staged. You can tell how fake this looks and these fake, but whatever. This would be a really, really great playroom. One of the properties that we have is a cabin, and we have a room like this, and it has two glass double doors on it. We close them off, and we put all kinds of kids' toys in there. Gigantic Connect 4. There's an arcade machine in there. We actually pitched a whole entire tent with monkey stuffed animals and all that kind of stuff to look like a safari. And it's a huge, huge hit with the parents because they kind of just kick the parents and kick the kids in there and say, go have fun. So really like this. Again, the finishes are nice. This looks modern. Countertops are nice. There's nothing in here that shows any kind of red flags. All very functional. Enough counter space, enough cooking space for the average family that's going to come in here and stay. Eating table area looks fine. The finishes in the bathrooms look really great. There's nothing really, super wow on it, but they're fine. They're decent finishes. Don't necessarily like this white gray with this cream. Probably doesn't work, but whatever. It's not a big deal. There are some older finishes here, like this. You could tell this is a wood cabinet. This is an old fixture. You can actually tell some of these windows are kind of old and kind of run down. So you kind of get this little sort of dated vibe to it, which I want to examine if I was out in person in that particular property a little bit more to make sure it doesn't look too run down. One of the things I will note is that this property has wood floors or this LVP throughout, which is nice for a short-term rental because you don't have to worry about animals or people staining carpet and all that kind of stuff. So as far as a rental, long-term, it's really great. As far as accepting pets, it's really great. And as far as a short-term rental, it would be great. This room only has is a 3.2, so only one room, the master, has this connected bathroom. The other ones are two bedrooms that share that bathroom. Not ideal. Most ideal scenario is each bedroom has its own bathroom, but that's usually not the case. So this works perfectly fine. I want to go into here and notice that this is kind of the master, and this has this plastic insert. It's not the end of the world, but I'm just noting it because this is a condition of the property I'm going to use when I go rank the other ones. I mean, these drapes are god awful. Laundry room. This is the little half bath. All with these same finishes, same top, all pretty nice. The back is really run down. Not a huge deal. There's definitely an upgrade in some things that need to be done here. Just off the surface, there's some loose stuff here. There's all this extra garbage that's here. It's just messy. The trash cans back here and all that kind of stuff. There's not a really great inviting area back here that makes you want to come and sit. There is this little pad that's starting to happen. What I consulted this potential buyer on is if you were going to do something, you had to do something back. You definitely got to fence it in so you can accept pets. And you have to probably build some kind of fire pit, add some of those like big bulbs, Christmas lights. You gotta make a backyard vibe to this, or it's just not going to work out. So that's the tour, and that's the property. Without going too much into it, it's decent. It's fine. There's nothing really amazing about it. If I was going to rate this property, I don't know. It's a 6. If the bathrooms were really great, that would raise it a little bit. If the front painting, the curb appeal was a little bit better, it was more modern, that would raise it a little bit. If the bathrooms were centered where there was a bedroom and bathroom in each one, that would raise it a little bit. But it's fine for a low budget, just without even looking at numbers. I would say that this property would rent around 100 to 130. Now, saying that, we already know that, like I told you, the mortgage is 3,000. So on the surface of this, I go, well, if I'm going to be renting this out for really max 20 days at, 150, probably somewhere in that range, the numbers don't work. I'm looking at just getting to 3,000 on the mark with management fees and stuff. It's a break even. I don't necessarily know if I would take the risk. So in that case, I'm already thinking, I don't know, but let's not let our bias affect us. Let's go in and the next step after we've looked at our property, we want to go look at what the competition is. So this property is actually located right around in this location. And so what I do is I usually go a couple of, about a month out, 3 weeks out. I'll look at 4 months out, 3 months out, look at different ranges. But I'll come in here and I'll just select a range generally during the week because those are awfully not booked. If I pick the weekends, we get some properties that don't show up because they're normally booked. I'll pick 2 days. I'll pick, 2 people with a kid coming in or 2 guests, just very generic. And then usually I'll go plus and minus 7 days on this. So I'm really opening up the calendar to see what's available. And we'll search the area. And if I come in here, this property is located like right around this location. It's actually like in here. And initially, I can just tell you exactly what I thought. The houses in this area are a little older. We'll call them seasoned, if you will. And what are the prices fetching? Around 100, 130. There's maybe a little bit nicer one of this property here. Now, the client said to me, well, there are some properties there in the 200 range, and they picked out this property here, and they were using the high ranges. And I say this, and I said, listen, I'm conservative in the way that I approach things. My job is to ensure that you don't make a bad mistake. I can convince myself that these numbers will work by taking the most expensive properties that are out there and then assuming that it's just going to rent for 20 nights and that all the numbers are going to work out. And so $200 at 20 nights, it's $4,000 minus the management fee. You're making a little bit of cash flow. When rates go down, you refinance the mortgage, the mortgage payment drops, and then you're maybe right where you want to be. The problem is that that's not how you evaluate properties. I'm looking at what's the average of the area and what do those properties look at. But because they mentioned it, even though the properties aren't necessarily the same area, the comparables that they're using, let's go look at them and see if they will even withstand. So I click on this property, let's dive directly in, and let's just start, walking through this property in comparison to the one that we just looked at. And as I'm going in here, I'm looking at it, you can tell, okay, it's about the same finishes. The kitchen looks the same, white cabinets, black tops, whatever. Looks about the same. I like this unique wall. Don't like the color. It's functional though. There's a living room, dining room, looks very close to the same vibe. Bedrooms look the same, hard floor throughout. The bathrooms though, look at this bathroom. Now, this might seem like a small thing, but this is one of the bathrooms. Beautiful black tile on the ground, beautiful large frame, this marble look tile that's on the wall, shower enclosure. Compare this to the property that we just looked at that is that plastic insert. Remember, I pointed that out just a few seconds ago. That plastic insert, if you were, again, Martha Stewart, if you were going to go looking at this property and you were looking for properties, would you look at this bathroom and would you say, I'd rather shower in this beautiful bathroom or I'd rather shower in the one with a shower curtain and the plastic insert? Finishes. Would I be okay with that old wooden cabinet that looked like a little bit run down with the outdated lights, or do I want nice recessed lighting with this nice, sort of more modern, right? So small differences, but the difference between being successful and not being successful are in the details, especially when it comes to a short-term rental. Let's look at the backyard. It's painted, it's modern, there's a new fence, there's a large backyard for a dog to run around in, and look, this nice little fire pit. Now, you can add the fire pit to the other property. You can paint the outside of the other property and make it comparable. You just have to consider that in the pricing that, this fire pit's going to be about $2,000 or so to probably put in. If you had a contractor do it, painting the house is going to be about $3,000, $4,000 or so, depending on the contractor and so forth. Also, beautiful back deck. Remember our property, a little bit run down, had some loose pebbles there, kind of didn't look great, probably need to clean it up. You could build a deck, but this is a really nice modern deck, nice eating outside, very logical. I would rather rent this. It's ugly. It doesn't look really great, right? Kind of got this carport. So it's not as attractive as the one that we had. But is it really that big of a difference? I don't know. The interior looks the same. And if I'm just on the surface, if I'm coming and looking at this property, I'm like, I kind of like that other big, beautiful bathroom versus the smaller one. I like these finishes better than the others. So there's that more of that marble. I like the fire pit out back better than the other one. I like this little game room. Well, we'll have a game room. This looks like this is a better property. If we're a 6, I would say this property is maybe a 7, 7.5. So they're a little bit better. So then the question is, what is this renting for? $185 a night. And not only am I looking at the $185 a night, I want to see how much it's rented. A lot of people don't realize you can do this, but I can go and look and I can see how many nights they're renting. If the properties are grayed out, like you see here, that means it's not available. That could be because the host just blocked them out because they're staying there, or normally it's because it's rented. And if I look here, I can tell you that this property doesn't really have any bookings in April and nothing in May. If I go to March, there's a couple in March, but I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And March, guys, is about 6 days from now. So March is pretty locked in for this property. This has got maybe 10 days, maybe a couple of these fill in. They get a couple of, 2-day bookings in here, but they're sub 15, they're sub 50% occupancy, 10 days at 185. The numbers just don't add up. That's not going to pay for that $3,000 mortgage. So this is a nicer property at a higher price, which might be why they're not booking it. If this was rented for maybe 120, they probably could have more bookings, but then at 120, with let's say 20 bookings, that doesn't really work. So what this listing tells us is a nice listing that's even nicer than ours at a price point of 185 is just not attracting people in this particular area. So hopefully this is making sense to you a little bit. So let's go to another property. I won't bore you with flipping through those because I've already kind of looked at these already. Oh, actually, this is a funny property. This is just a side note. This is for $225 a night. This little, I don't know, whatever you call this thing, like soft kidney bean or whatever, I don't know, whatever this thing is renting all day long. Great reviews, $200 a night, and it gets booked. So it's pretty fine. This was another property that was in the area. This is one that I thought was more comparable to our property. Look at this, $115 a night. We're just going to flip through these pictures really quickly. Again, guys, if you're going to rent a property and this is going to be a business, don't go take pictures with your cell phone. Like, this is ridiculous. This is a terrible coloring, terrible picture. Oh, I flip this. Okay, so again, terrible pictures, but whatever. The room is almost the same flooring that we had in our subject property. Pretty plain. The furnishings aren't really that great. Bathrooms are nice, though. Don't have a plastic insert, have this nice tile. But, for the most part, it's the exact same. This is maybe a little bit nicer than our subject property. Probably comparable to that cream bathroom. But for the most part, this is what I thought was very comparable to the one that we were going to purchase as far as the look and the feel and the size and all that kind of good stuff. So is this one renting? Well, let's go take a look. Well, I can tell you that even if it's renting every day of the week or every day of the month, plus 2 times 2, that's even possible. If you did double bookings every day, this still wouldn't work out because at 115 times 30, you're only going to be at $3,000 mark, and that's not even break even when you consider my management fee. So it doesn't really work. As you can tell, if I go in here, this doesn't book at all. She doesn't have any bookings for March. There's no bookings for May. So this is not great. 4 reviews. It's just not booking. There's just nothing happening going on well here. There's a number of things that's wrong with this. I also want to consider the furniture is terrible. The pictures are terrible. Just everything about this listing is just god awful. So that could also be a reason why it's not booking. But either way, it's not booking. Here's a property that's very close as well. This one is pretty decent as far as its design. I don't know, they have all this extra stuff. We're not going to get into that, but as far as the look and feel, like it's modern, it's good color, good coloring. Nice little patio to sit back at. It's okay. The kitchen's small. This is like a little flat studio or something like that, but it's okay. This is a place if you were just a single person going to come stay or a couple going to come stay, like you could stay here. Actually, this actually looks like a basement, so not a direct comparison. But let's just look like, 2 guests, studio, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. So $106 a night, right? So clearly this one's booking, right? Let's go look. March, they do have something that's staying there, but nothing else. Anything in April? Nope. And let's just go one over more. Anything in April, May, there's a couple of bookings, but even at $106, there's not a whole lot here that is actually doing really well as far as the booking is concerned. So on that case, I'm starting to think it's not necessarily the properties, but the overall location. So one the video here, I just want to kind of give you an example, and we're going to recap just real quick. But again, guys, the idea here is when you're looking for a short-term rental, location. You want to look at the condition of the property that you're looking to purchase. You will kind of want to rate that at honesty scale. You want to figure out what your operating expenses are going to be. So mortgage, property, insurance, taxes. You want to set aside for fixes of the property in case the AC goes out and things like that. And so you want to try to figure out exactly what your operating is, and then you want to know what your cash flow is. We're going to target at least 20% cash on cash return. I really want to see 30% cash on cash return. So if you know how much you're going to buy it for, you know how much money you're going to put into it, the furnishings and the down payment, you know how much money you need to make. Do all those calculations first to figure out where you need to be. And then from there, you had to Airbnb, VRBO, you can do the same. I just use Airbnb, it's easier. Don't ever use one of those Airbnb and DNA or rental estimates. Don't, for the love of God, don't ever use those. Just go do the research yourself, because you can then compare and say, okay, is my property I'm buying, is it as nice as the property that I'm evaluating right now? Okay, and then what's the rental rate for that one? And if that one rented for 15 days or 50% booking, would I meet the numbers that I just calculated of my target for cash on cash? If it doesn't work. You want to consider, is my property better or worse? If your property is better, then maybe you can get a little bit higher of a price point. If it's worse, then you know you're not going to get as much of a highest price point. If you see properties that are expensive that renting, properties that are cheaper than renting, it's probably not a good area. If you see properties that are expensive and they're renting really, really well, you have to be cautious to consider that they're probably they might be renting well because they're that beautiful of properties and they're attracting people to come look at that. If properties are cheap and they're renting really well, you got to consider that they could be potentially renting because they're just very, very cheap. So all the budget people are going to go there. To get the best of both worlds, then, what are we looking for? We're looking for a great location, right? And in addition to the great location, we're then looking for something that can be the cheaper property that's on the short-term rental. And if you could be the cheaper property and you're the best property on it through furnishings or renovations or whatever, that 3-prong approach, that is the recipe for 80% occupancy, 100% cash on cash return, which is what we buy. Just like if you were going to invest in a stock, just like if you're going to open a business, you don't go and put investments and put your hard-earned dollars into something that is just going to give you mediocrity, or it's just like an okay. It's very important as well to protect your investment, to reduce your risk. If you go into something and all the numbers seem like amazing, like I'm going to get 40, 50% return on investment, all the numbers, and the economy slows down, you come down to a period where like, okay, now I'm only getting 10% return on investment, but I'm still profitable, I'm good. There's a bunch of people right now that are in short-term rentals and they're not renting, and the numbers aren't ending up, and they're paying those mortgages out of their pocket, and they're negative cash flow. Never want to be in that situation. There's no read to. Don't let the wanting to be into a property be the reason why you buy it. Don't, or just the pursuit, or just, I want to be in short-term rentals. I want to be in Airbnbs. I heard it's really great. Don't just jump into something out of greed. Don't just jump into something because you just think it's a good idea. Don't look at a property and go, well, I just love that property, even though nothing's renting around it. There's no reason for people to come to this location, but I think it's going to rent because I think it's a great property. No, do not get emotional about investments. It's all about the numbers and the data. If the numbers and the data are not there, it's a no-go. It's a hard pass. And I'll leave you with this one thing, and we'll end the video here. For the rest of you, that's the rest of the short-term rental. But I want to specifically talk about this particular client and why they were purchasing this particular property, because it's important. This individual was from California. They're actually a physician. And so they've read about on podcasts or whatever, there's plenty of things that are out there, that they realize that they can offset their W-2 income with a short-term rental. For those of you who don't know, if you are a real estate professional, your real estate investments end up not being passive and they're an active business. And because they are an active business, then you can use that active income or active losses, mainly bonus depreciation, appreciation of the asset, the property, to offset your W income. So, for example, if I was a real estate professional, that all I did was do real estate all day long, and I ran my short term rentals, I ran my long term rentals, and that's all that I did. And my spouse was a doctor, and let's say they were bringing in $400,000 a year, I could use my business that I'm doing, which is the short term rental business, and the losses that I would carry because of the depreciation of the property to offset the W-2 income on my spouses, because we're married, we're filing jointly. So it's very interesting to people, because if I can erase 400,000 income times the tax bracket, it can be a tremendous amount of savings. However, in this particular case, the person lived in California. They were looking to purchase in Georgia. If you buy a short-term rental and you hire someone to do all the work for you, mainly find the property, furnish the property, manage the property for you, it is not a business, or it is a business, but it is a passive business for you. So you would not qualify necessarily in that particular situation, because while you are doing a short-term rental, it's called a short-term rental loophole, and while short-term rentals are considered as businesses and not passive, the IRS considers all rentals as passive income unless you're material participation, real estate professional. Again, this is not financial advice. I'm not a CPA. I'm not a tax accountant, all of that. Please go look all this stuff up. But if you're not a real estate professional putting in the hours and meeting all the criteria for the IRS code, you can there's a loophole that says, well, a short-term rental, if you're renting things under 7 days, that technically is classified as business. And because it's a business and it's not passive, then you can offset your W-2 income or your spouse's W-2 income because of that. However, even if you have a business, as if you own a restaurant and you don't ever work in it, then it can still become passive and you can't do that. So my question to this person, even though they just wanted to buy, I said, you're in California. You should be looking in California to go purchase. You shouldn't be looking here. Look in California, okay? Because if you look in California, that they could actually manage this business in California, and they would materially participate in that business, and then it would be an active business, and it could offset their W-2 income. However, if you hire me to manage your property, do all the things for you here in Georgia, you're not materially participating, and so that wouldn't necessarily work. So just, guys, do your due diligence. Make sure when you're working with somebody, especially if you're working with a real estate agent, tell them your purpose. Tell them what you're looking to do. Don't work with real estate agents that don't know about investing and aren't well versed in it, because we could have saved this person a tremendous amount of time. Basically, I love to take her as a client. I would love to do their business. I love to do the selling the property. I would love to manage the property for them, but it's just simply not going to make sense, because they will not get the benefit they want. They are looking for the benefit of a bonus depreciation that will be a benefit to them in the first year. They're going to take a big lump sum to cancel out their W-2 income. But after that, the property still needs to cash flow. In a consult with this particular person, they said, well, the bonus depreciation is so great because if the house is $500,000, I'm going to depreciate maybe, I don't know, let's say 20% of that for easy numbers. That's 100,000. And if I can take 100,000 off my income at their 30% tax bracket, that's a nice amount of savings for them, which is great. But then I said to him, but what about year two? Then the still has to cash flow. If you're losing $1,000 or $2,000 a month, or you're break even though you saved great on taxes that first year, the rest of that investment for the next 5, 10, 15 years that you hold it is a very bad investment. So when you are investing, you have to have something that matches all of the marks. And this is why it's important to work with somebody that has your best interest at heart. There's a lot of real estate agents that will say, oh, you want to do a short-term rental? Great, fantastic. And they'll try to go find your property. They'll try to sell you into it. We basically just told this client, no, don't pay me a commission. Don't give me your property management fees. I don't want them. It's not going to benefit you. You need to be doing, there are certain things they can do to actually invest in here and group it with other properties. And that's a completely different video as well. But for the most part, I said, don't buy this property. It doesn't cash flow. The agent's not going to get commission. We're not going to get the property management fees. And that's okay. Because just like investing, you don't invest in bad products, just invest in them. You also don't work with clients and make sales just to make sales, because the best thing that we can do as a company, and as a realtor, and this is for my realtors that are out there, is if I give this person a great property and they have a really great return, they're going to come back and buy more properties from us, which is why our investors buy 4, 5, 6, 7 properties from us. And of course, yes, we manage all of them. If I buy them a crappy property and it doesn't cash flow, doesn't get a return on investment, they're not going to come back and purchase from me. So do good business. I'm done preaching to you. And that's that. So short-term rentals, if of course, and I'll just plug ourselves, I'm a broker here with OneDoor. We are a full service real estate firm. We do focus a big portion of the business on investing. We also have a full property management company, all the staff, all the things that do midterm, short-term, long-term. So if you are in the Atlanta area and you are interested in rental properties, or even just you're a regular person, you want to buy and sell, we do all of it. So give us a contact. And of course, if you do see value in this particular video, I would greatly appreciate it. If for those of you who stuck with me now for, was it 30 minutes or so, you obviously saw value. Give us a like, comment below. What do you think? Is it a good decision to pass on this property? Or should we be buying this property? If you want me to evaluate properties for you, shoot me a DM. I'm happy to evaluate properties for you, no matter where you are in the country. Happy to do it. It gives me content to help, and I'm always willing to pay back. But if you did see value here, please smash the like button, hit subscribe. We post videos not always just about real estate and short-term rentals and investing, but also just about wealth building in general, credit, leverage, investing, taxes, mindset. It is the strategic combination of those things is what separates someone becoming the 1% or 99%. The way people have become successful and have created generational wealth has not changed for generations. We simply don't teach it in this channel. This is what we're dedicated to teaching. So if you got value, smash, like, comment. We greatly appreciate it. Until next time, make good investments. Don't rush into things. And be honest. We'll leave it at that.